Hi, thank you for tuning in. Just a quick note before we get started. The conversations on this podcast are open and honest, and sometimes they cover sensitive or controversial topics. The opinions you'll hear are those of the guests, and not necessarily mine or the show's. Listener discretion is advised. Now, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Phoenix and Friends podcast, where we bring you a little bit of motivation, inspiration, and light, one guest at a time. This week, we're diving into the world's activism, politics, and lecturing with my incredible guest, Chantelle Lunt.
Hey.
Chantelle,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm very good. I mean, how can you not be feeling good when we're at Black Pride and
Exactly.
the sun is shining?
Yeah, it's a special Black Pride episode, everyone. The sun is shining. I haven't seen Chantelle in ages. It came all the way down from Liverpool today to be here.
Made up to be with you. Gorgeous day.
So, Chantelle, for the people at home, please introduce yourself and tell them what it is exactly that you do.
Okay, deep breath. I'm Chantelle. I'm a councillor, mayor, activist, PhD researcher, lecturer, writer, general trouble causer. Can't think of anything else that rhymes with but I'm sure there's a few other things. Mother.
Full-time job.
And yeah, I don't want to say hustler because hustle culture's dead, but yeah, just keep busier, all of those things.
Smoothie juice business?
No, not anymore. Since I started my PhD, like work-to-life balance, I decided that I couldn't continue to make juices.
That is...
And I'd have to focus on, research.
That is so many amazing things. Let's dive into them a little bit more. So tell me about your activism.
So my activism, I've always been a trade unionist, but I'd say my activism in Black civil rights started in 2020 with the BLM movement. My background is I used to be a police officer for a very short while. So I used to be a police officer, had a horrendous time with racism and misogyny in the police, and was processing that while I was at uni, and then George Floyd happened. And for me, I had a real issue with the fact that the conversation was really contextualised as, police racism is an American issue. And I was like, oh, no,
Yep.
It's a UK issue. You don't
need
to, take Black lives in the UK.
Yep.
So I really felt like there was a space for me to be part of that conversation. But people weren't making space. And they say if no one's making space, you bring your own seat. So I created my own organisation and the local iteration of BLM in Merseyside. And then just literally threw myself into it, just went to protest, spoke to people, and it literally, that's how I met you. You came to Liverpool to do the music movement. It just snowballed. And activism is what led me to politics, because once you get involved in activism, when we did Kill the Bill together, you quite quickly learn that a lot of the things that you're trying to aim, people in politics have the power to make those decisions. So I got into politics to see if that was a space where someone like me could make a change, and I'm still testing that out.
Still testing it out. So how did you get into politics and talk about that transition from activism to politics?
Okay, so I live in Halewood, which is a really small town in Merseyside in Knowsley. Rewind to 2020, and I was asking my local town council, which at the time was all white, to do something about the racism in the area. At the time, there was racist graffiti on someone's car, it had been smashed up. And then luckily for me, some people on the town council were like, well, this girl's really passionate about changing things. Is that not something that would make someone a good councillor? So when it came time for elections, they asked me to stand, and I did. And I became the first Black woman to town councillor in my town. And I always think it's interesting because now I'm the chairperson of that town council, and I'm like, well, there was space for someone like me in there. It doesn't mean that massively anything's changed. We know that quite often maybe one or two of us gets through, but it's a space to have those conversations. And I passed our first piece of anti-racist policy in last year. I got a motion passed through, and from there, again, in 2023, the stuff we said was going to happen happened, and we had a riot in Knowsley. It was really racist. And I was trying to get hold of the Borough Council, which is the next council up. It's a bigger council than town council. And I remember saying, if you don't do anything about this racism, I'm coming through the front doors and I'm going to turn up in the council.
Good.
And a few people didn't get back to me. And a few people from, like, who were, like, certain, you know, team leaders and directors didn't get back to me from the council. And I remember a year later when I got elected again as the first black woman on that council. And I sat in a meeting with them and they had to call me councillor. And I said, I told you I'd get through the door. And now I've got the key and a pass.
That is so incredible. And yeah, like you said, it's so important, even if it's not something that you can do necessarily for today.
Yeah.
It's like you're breaking that ground for tomorrow and for the next people to come through and to show people that it's something that is possible.
Absolutely.
And yeah, even if it's just a small change right now and just being in that space, it's like always a building ground for other things. And you're also a researcher and a lecturer. And that reminds me, like you said earlier, we met the first time in Liverpool at a protest. And I remember specifically, I heard you talk about weathering, which is something that black women experience, which I'll ask you to expand on. But that was really that moment of, I hadn't heard of that before. And I just remember that first time I encountered you, just the wealth of knowledge that you had and the way you really had the statistics and the facts. I was like, wow, so that research and lecturing, tell us more about that side of everything.
Yeah, I would say this whole trajectory has kind of come from me just passionately throwing myself at something that I thought was a problem. So randomly when I was in, so I did a lot of research about Black history. I've got ADHD, so I overly research anything I'm interested in.
Hyperfocus, yeah.
Just the sensitivity plus ADHD means that I know a lot about some things, and then anything like tax, really boring, don't know much about that. So like areas like Black history, Black women's health, all of that I'm really, really up on. And when I started doing my activism, I started getting invited to guest lecture at universities, started getting invited to do talks, deliver training. So this really weird position of not having an undergraduate degree, but being a faculty member in some universities and going in and giving lectures to undergrads. Yeah. So then I was like, actually, this is like a space for change. And when you think about things like, you know, the Great Replacement theory, there's a French philosopher air quotes, called Alain de Benoist. And his work that was like 50 years ago, his theoretical, like massively racist work, is part of the reason that we have those theories, this idea that whiteness is going to be replaced by diversity. While he doesn't identify as far right, and while he doesn't, you know, consider himself, he doesn't stop the far right using his work and his narrative and his ideologies to talk about the Great Replacement theory. And I always think if we've got academics on the other side doing that, then we need academics on the left bringing out our theories and talking about the things impacting our communities and marginalised communities. So I just basically follow my passion. So I do a lot around Black history, I do a lot around Black civil rights, but my actual research area is care experience, which is foster care for anyone who's not familiar. And that's because I grew up in care, and there's like, it's sometimes called the civil rights issue of our era that no one speaks about, because there's just horrible outcomes and horrible experiences that young people in care go through. But no one really talks about it unless you are care experience or you're aware of that community. Often.
Outcomes of children carers, having been in foster carers in your 30s, and just being alive in your 30s, you almost beating the odds of what's expected to you, especially if you're not in jail.
Or homeless, basically. Because, like, homeless statistics, 25%, incarceration, 25%, your care experience communities make up 1% of the population. And we're the 6th wealthiest economy, and yet the government is in charge of the outcomes for these young people. So you really feel like that kind of math would mean that these young people would be thriving, but actually they're some of the most marginalised. So yeah, I just kind of want to use whatever platform I have and whatever research capacity I have to kind of highlight and, you know, spread awareness. So I look at the education experiences of young people in care and try to look at ways that different institutions and organisations can actually improve educational outcomes for them.
That's amazing. So for the people at home who are listening to all of this incredible things, how did you get started? How did you get into this kind of lane of things you already kind of explored? So what was your starting point for someone who maybe has a similar passion or a similar interest for things? How would you best say?
Now, I would say don't be put off when people tell you no, because I think if we're really honest, and I hope we can be, there is a lot of gatekeeping that happens, not only in activist spaces, but massively in political spaces. And again, because I'm neurodiverse, I have rejection sensitivity and I'm also a people pleaser, which meant that for a few times, if someone said there was no space, I'd be like, okay, and then I'd like go off and just like be ignored. And then the other bit that I kind of realised was, but this work isn't happening. So I really know how I think this work has happened. And I think if you've got that burning desire and there isn't an existing organisation or a space, I'd say in the first sentence, always try and find the existing organisation because it'll make life 10 times easier for you. But if there isn't, don't be afraid to just make that path. Don't be afraid to be the first. And the most important one, don't be afraid to be disliked. Because no matter what you are doing in activism, someone is not going to like you. The people, for instance, right wingers aren't going to like what you're saying ever. But then other people, you might not be saying it in the way that they want you to say it. But it's about you being true to your cause and yourself and true to your community. And if you're doing that, then you can't go wrong. But like, for instance, for this councillor role that I've got, there were people on the phone trying to stop me from being a councillor, like literally telling me that because no black woman had ever stood and it was going to be awful for me. There were people moving mountains for me not to stand. And I literally have to go, no, because if no one tries, then we'll never get those positions.
Yeah, exactly.
And no one thought I could win because I don't live in a diverse area. And I was like, again, if no one tries, we'll never know. And lo and behold, I won in an area where we previously lost 2 seats. So you can do it, and I think you do sometimes have to have that self-belief, and sometimes you have to be comfortable being the only one standing up and opposing something in a room where you're being gaslit. So it's difficult to get kind of to that point where, as long as you know that you're standing by what you know is ethically right and morally right and what you know your community supports, even if there's 100 people stood in front of you saying no, you have to just dig your feet in and say actually yes and push back. So I don't know if it's not like a job, is it? You just sort of, I think, definitely just getting out to events, getting out to protests. Online is kind of a double-edged sword because we stay in touch online. I've met loads of activists online.
Yeah.
But there's also the other side of it with all trolls. So I'd say you have to find that balance between being online and being passionate and then doing the actual in real life stuff and meeting up. But just get out, speak to people. One thing I'd say is you'd be surprised what people actually say yes to. That's one of the things. I will help anyone, but like ask me to ask you to help me and I'll be like, oh, I'm not that comfortable with that. And I remember someone saying to me, have you ever asked people and seen if you could say anything? And to give you an example, one of the times that the far right came to, when they came to Knowsley, we organised the cancer demonstration in 2023. We didn't have a PA that worked. We didn't have money to help people get there to travel. And we didn't have any of the stuff that we needed, but we could organise people. And we just asked people. And we got unions to fund the money for the PA. We got organisations to sort of travel. We got big speakers. And just through asking, we really got there. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I always say to people as well, if you don't ask, the answer is automatically a no. So the worst so you can get is that no that you already have and you're asking. Yeah. And by asking, you give yourself the possibility of a yes, and that's what you can happen. Yeah, that's so amazing. So talk me about your win, actually, like you said. So how was that like for you campaigning? Did you do a bit of door knocking in your area? Did you speak to people? Yeah. How was that experience for you? And like you said, breaking that barrier and changing people's minds, essentially, and being that first. How was that experience? How did you go about that?
I would say it was quite cathartic. So if you're not aware of the area that I represent, I'm the first black person to represent that area. It's also the area where this year's 20th anniversary of Andy Walker's murder. So there was a significant race hate crime 20 years ago. And a lot of people sort of were like trying to put me off and saying, you know, that's not an area where someone like you can be. And I'll be honest, you know, I've grown up in Knowsley, so there's people who won't come to Knowsley who are people of colour, and I understand why, but I've lived there and I'm kind of like, I've got some really good friends there, and I know that not everyone thinks the same. So, but I was campaigning a year after we had riots where we tried to burn down and police van, and I'd even gone there the next day, and some people were like, you know, all of the people in that hotel need to go, and we're really expressing really racist views. But I actually found it really cathartic knocking on people's doors. So I knocked on every door. So I think there's 8,000 households in my ward. That's households, and I knocked on every door 3 times.
8,000? 3 times? So that's 24,000 knocks?
Yes, so that everyone got a chance to talk to me. And I actually found that people had like the same wants and needs that I had. They wanted the kids to have a nice school, they wanted to be healthy, they wanted green spaces, they hated potholes. And actually, people on an individual level are really lovely.
Yeah.
There was very few times where I got anyone who was nasty to me. There were very few times, and quite often if they were nasty to me, it wasn't about me personally, it was about their perception of politics. And it actually restored me faith and made me realise that sometimes, you know, the media does influence how people think.
Absolutely.
Sometimes collectively, like when we see riots, people can really go along with things that I think in the light of day they don't actually think. Like the next day after the riots, I was like, do you really think everyone in that hotel is this, that and the other? And they were like, well, no. And I was like, well, why did you go? So it was really nice to have those individual conversations and to realise that I could represent people, and also that it wasn't as bad as I thought because of how I was seeing things through the lens of after the riots. So it really campaigning made me think that I could do it. And then I was just like, when it got to the time of the count, I was like, well, whatever I've done, at least I know I've done my best campaign. So I've done a campaign I'm proud of. So that's all that matters. And then when I won, it was like, it was boss. I was like, so I was the first black woman to sign the book and the first black woman to be and I'm the only black person in that council.
That must have been such a surreal experience.
It is. And it was fun. All the people who really didn't want me to be elected give me a hug and saying congratulations. I was like, you secretly hurt me.
No, but I think that's so powerful what you said. And again, it gets so hard because I think the internet is such an easy place for people to get lost in mob mentality.
Yeah.
And to kind of join that collective. And everyone wants to argue on the internet, but you really want to listen.
Yeah.
So it can be so easy to kind of forget that people aren't who they are online.
Yeah.
And you actually do are face to face with human beings. They all act differently than they would behind the phone screen. That's so fascinating. So along your journey, already mentioned foster care. What are some of the challenges that you feel that you've overcome? How did you overcome those for people back at home who maybe are struggling with coming out of the foster care system, for example, or something else? What is your advice for overcoming some of those difficulties when you're trying to pursue something?
Take another deep breath. So yeah, some of the challenges I'd say definitely foster care. I grew up in foster care from the age of 1, so that was like I was quite fortunate because from the age of 2 I had the same carer, but then my mum died when I was 14, my biological mum, and then when I was 16 my foster mum got sick and was retired, so then I was homeless by the time I was 16 because leaving care is a total hot mess. And I had to kind of navigate homelessness, and I was like cleaning toilets and just doing any job, and then I was working like 70-hour weeks. So there was a load of challenges, and I think one of the things that I didn't come to terms with was actually being gentle on myself and saying, you know what, you have to do a lot when you were like early 20s, and just to stop yourself being homeless and to eat. Like I have a whole thing now about I always have to have cupboards full of food because I always remember not having food, and it gives me this like weird anxiety.
And when the cupboards start running out, you start feeling hungry. And
you get really anxious. So I like it's like full battery feel, full cupboard feel, and I'm like, okay, I feel okay if my cupboard's full. I'd say I used to constantly compare myself. So my best friends growing up were white, still are. But they were like my main point of comparison. And I used to compare myself to their success, not taking into account that some of them were very wealthy, like very, very rich. All of them had a mum and a dad and a family that they could go back to, and you know, the financial safety net, whereas I was literally living independently in my own flat from the age of 18, and I'd be like, well, why haven't I got that job, or why haven't I? And I'd never go.
Weird because other people are also jealous of you, and everyone. I remember when I was 17, I had my own first flat. Everyone wanted to come to my house and party all the time. So it's that weird dichotomy.
So you're the grown up among your friends, and as I'm older, and especially this is where the research helps, so care experienced people, if they're ever going to go to uni, are more likely to do it in the mid-30s than in the early 20s or teens, and that's because they've got this whole rapid transition into independence and living independently to contend with, and it's only once that all settles down that they can start looking towards the future. So like I found that really helpful to go, hang on a minute, stop being so hard on yourself. You were in survival mode, and once you got through survival mode, you were able to start living, and that can take decades, you know, that can take your whole life. But I think that go easy on yourself and understand that not everyone is running the same race as you in any way, shape, or form. I also do think, though, that some of the, and this is different for other people, but some of the struggles I faced in care and some of the struggles I faced in the police made me more resilient. As in, I'll go, well, you got through that. Like, you got through that, and nothing has ever felt as bad as that.
Yeah.
So just do it, because you got through that, so you can get through this, and you can get through this.
It is weird sometimes afterwards, and during the time when you're going through it, it feels so tough. But then there's other times where you kind of go back and you face other struggles, and you kind of look back on that and you go, right, okay, if I made it through this is not as bad as that time that I went through that situation.
Exactly.
You kind of use it as a motivation.
Exactly.
Yeah, you mentioned some of that as well. I'm not sure if you want to go more into the racism and the misogyny you faced in the police as well. And I saw you also faced a lot. Well, you mentioned running for the council. So how did you tackle dealing with that and people telling you that you can't do enough, and that combined kind of double factor? What was your way to kind of persevere through that?
Again, like, I would say the police stuff for me was difficult because when I joined the police, I had not experienced it. I've been really fortunate to have worked for an organisation where it was just lovely. So for 12 years, I've been really kind of insulated from wider racism. And I do think it's past that time, you know, around the time of the Olympics and that, where we had relative kind of, it was one of the nicer parts of history where people were getting along a little bit more. But I'd also always grown up in a house full of women. So I grew up, my mum, and she always fostered girls, and then I went to an all-girls school, and then I worked in children's services, which is dominated by women as a sector. And then I went to the police, and I was like, I am black in the police. B, black is not a good thing to be in the police. C, me as a woman, I'm being treated a lot different.
Male-dominated.
Yeah. And like, I'd never had someone ignore me because I was a woman and talk to my male colleague, and that was like the kinds of thing that was happening on top of like the overt racism. Yeah. And so I actually think it's because I had that experience beforehand that I was able to see this is a really toxic workplace. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, because I got some of the, when I put my complaints in, the other officer put a complaint in, and they used some of the tropes about me being lazy. I knew I didn't want to be there after like 6 months. But then I stayed an extra year and a bit to complete my training because I was like, you're not going to call me lazy. I'm going to show you that I can do this job. And I got like top marks and stuff. But it was a real eye-opener. And one of the like most random things was when they put me in a room with 20 other officers who bullied me and then like tell them. And I had to be like, I think this force is racist and you've been racist. And then got shouted down by 20 people. But I definitely think that prepared me. You know what I say? Be prepared to stand up. I can stand up in any room and say whatever because I've been shouted down. And like, I was really not well at that time. I've been shouted down in some spaces. And I'm like, no one will ever be as bad as that. So I can stand and tell whoever, whatever, whenever. But I'd say, yeah, I kind of, the politics side, again, that didn't bother me as much because I've been through the police stuff. I've been in activist spaces. And so a bunch of people who don't believe in me telling me I can't do something, that's my whole life. Like, so you can tell me some more. And what usually kicks off in me is that ADHD. Now, let me just type things on it. But you know, only like, I was like, okay, let me see how I do. You know, we got really, I was like, you tell me you don't want me to do this, the more you're making this really interesting for me to go after it. So the more they told me no was the more I was like, yeah, let me try and do this. So I actually don't think that's a good strategy to use with me. If you don't want me to do something, tell me I can't do it. Tell me that again. Watch me do it.
Similar streak of defiance.
Yeah.
As soon as I hear that, you can't or you shouldn't or you don't, it's like I have an allergy to those words. And I'm like, I'm going to do it just because. Yeah, that's incredible. So definitely that kind of defiance and not letting people taking it as a challenge to actually continue doing that thing.
Honestly.
Yeah. Are you ready for some quick fire questions, Chantelle?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see what we get today. So, what is your favourite song right now?
Oh my God, quick fire, my brain is not working. Okay, my favourite song right now, look at the way I'm living to try and find some time. My favourite song right now is still Boots on the Ground. Is it 803 Fresh or 703 Fresh?
One of the two?
One of the two. I heard it when I was in New Orleans, and I also discovered black line dancing. I didn't discover it, I'm not a colonizer, but I became aware of black line dancing while I was in New Orleans, and I'd never come across it before, and that song was being played everywhere, and it's like my feel-good song, so I know it's old, but I love it.
Amazing. What is your favourite place to go when you need to go unwind?
It's usually the beach or the seaside. I like to be by big bodies of water.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the last movie you watched?
Okay, it is. Is it Super Bowl? I think it's Super Bowl. It was a bit of nostalgia, and DC have got it right for once.
Not DC coming back.
No, make up on good.
Ice cream or sorbet?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
Ice cream, could you? No, sorbet is just a pretend.
I love the sorbet.
No.
Name one book that you think everyone should read.
Oh, okay. Punishing the Poor by Lachlan Lunt. I'm reading it at the moment, and it essentially shows how, sorry to go on a rant, but neoliberal governments have basically hoodwinked us all to believe that they still care about social care, whilst also massively funding the police. So the things that were previously been cared for under a well-funded public service are now responded through with a criminal justice lens, and more and more poor people become incarcerated for things that aren't their fault, like starving and stealing food because you haven't got any money.
Amazing book. What is your favourite trash meal?
Oh, I had it yesterday. It's trash, but it's not. Well, it is. Okay, so salt and pepper chips with curry sauce on. I don't know if that's a northern thing.
Curry sauce we do in Germany as well. Just as soon as a German one, I totally approve. It's so good. What's your favourite healthy snack?
Hummus and cucumber, yeah.
Classic, can't go wrong. Who was the poster on Teenage Chantelle's wall?
Destination.
Destiny's Child.
Beyonce had braids. It was amazing.
Your favourite concert you've ever been to?
Well, it's not so much a concert as Doechii performed at Glastonbury this year. Oh my god. She was like, here's everyone else, including Alanis Morissette, and Doechii was like, in the stars.
She's
amazing. And artists. Yeah.
And having a DJ the way them and sing is incredible. I can't remember.
She's amazing. It was like, oh my god.
Where is one place in the world that you still have to visit?
Okay, I really, really, really want to see Ghana.
Ghana.
Honestly. If I died and I hadn't visited it, I'd feel really sad. But then I had another one. I want to visit Cameroon. It's where my dad's from, but there's like a whole post-colonial civil war going on there, so I kind of have to wait for that to stop. Unless you can teach me German, because it's oh no, it's not German. German previously. There's a war between the Francophones and the Anglophones, so none of those are German anymore. But Germany started it. So yeah, I was like, I need to know a language other than English to go. That's not going to happen.
Absolutely. And a favourite place that you have been on holiday to?
Only for the beaches though. There's like a whole hostility there when you're there, but the beaches are the best, and it's like, yeah, get a tent, get down there, and it's amazing. Just sit on a paddleboard on the water all day. You love it.
Sounds fine. What is your most embarrassing festival moment?
Oh. Embarrassing festival moments. I did do something embarrassing at this festival, but I'm like, have I blotted it out? I embarrassed myself at a festival.
Why is it embarrassed?
No. I mean, no, I've got an embarrassing moment, but it's not a festival, but I'm not going to tell you that one. I do have one, and it was at Glastonbury. Okay, you ready? So, so I was at Glastonbury. I was speaking at left field, which meant that I had backstage passes to left field, and I was there with my partner and my son. And I was like to them, now there's going to be famous people in backstage. Don't speak to them. Like the backstage, they're just chilling. Don't embarrass me. It's like, don't embarrass me. Just be chill. Do you know what I mean? So we're backstage, we're being chill. See a few famous people. And then I'm about to go on stage, so I was really nervous. And I saw this lad from Liverpool, and I went, oh my God, Jamie Webster, you're all right. And then as I was about to speak to him, I realised I didn't actually know him from Liverpool. He's famous. He's a musician. Because I realised it, and I was like talking to him like I knew him. I just stopped speaking and walked from above the stage. Just said, I was like, chips. And then the whole time, I couldn't speak to him. I kept on hiding from him because I was like, and then my dad was like, what's the one thing you told us? The Scousness overrode the part where I realised he was famous because I just knew him as a Scouser.
Is that oh my God?
And he was literally like, I don't know you.
Yeah, he's probably thinking about it the whole time. He was like, why does she think, did we meet?
Yeah. I don't know.
So back in the 90s.
I was just like, oh no, you don't know me.
If you could time travel to any historical periods, where would you go?
I would like to go to the 60s or 70s during the height of the civil rights era in the US. I just feel like I'd love to be there, like that organised. And obviously there's the whole violence horrible element, but I just feel like the whole radical organising politics and community that was happening then, I'd just like to have seen it.
Yeah.
Just like to have been there for a bit.
Part of it. If you could learn one language, just download it straight to your brain, no effort whatsoever, what language?
I'd like to learn Spanish. I went through a phase where I did learn it in night school. I got an A in GCSE, and then I forgot all of it. And
GCSEs are so bad at teaching languages.
so I'd like to know it. I'd like to know it at least.
It's a great choice. Spanish is amazing.
No,
Who is your favourite or most inspiring historical figure?
kind of. We go to the classics, don't we? But I think maybe Queen Nanny of the Maroons, because she just really held space in a physical and like spiritual way. And I just think she was formidable, and she doesn't get enough flowers.
That's amazing. Yeah, we definitely need to give the ones that don't get all the flowers some shots as well. I love that. What is the best present anyone has
A caravan.
ever?
It wasn't really a present. Well, if someone gives you something free, it's a present, isn't it? So, like, the universe aligned and someone was giving away a caravan,
Oh
and
my God.
she gave it to me, and it's the best thing I've ever had. I still haven't completely upcycled it, but the inside is like the 60s gorgeous vibe, vintage vibe, and I'm going to upcycle it and take it on a tour of the UK. It's amazing.
It's incredible. What is the worst present anyone's ever given you?
Oh my God. Not me, but my children. 2 terrapin, like turtle things that died, and I think they gave us them when they were dying. So one of my eldest went to school with these children, and I don't know where they were from, but the parents were international, and they were leaving the country, and brought to my child's party a tank with these 2, I don't know what, terrapins or turtles, and they weren't moving very much, and within a week they passed away. And we bought a heat lamp, we bought everything for these, we didn't want pets, we weren't allowed pets, and then we had to go through the horror of telling our child that these little terrapin things had died.
Just a week ago.
No, they weren't a week old, they clearly had them for a while, yeah, and it was like, so yeah, pets are not present, and you can't just bring pets to someone's party in front of the child because they can't say no to it. So yeah, that was the worst because of the investment we made, and then the fact that I think he was sick anyway, and they ended up dying, and it was just like, yeah, it was horrific.
I'm gonna send it to the terrapins.
Maybe I don't know. Terrapins are the little ones, aren't they? Yeah, terrapin, yeah. I know.
What's your favourite place to go on a shopping spree? And this could be online or in person.
Okay, so I went there yesterday, but I didn't have the money for the shopping spree. I just got these press-on nails.
Nail check.
It's called the Red Brick Market in Liverpool, and it's like a vintage market with all your kinds of, your alternative shops. And I went in there yesterday, and there was only an hour left, and it was just the best place. And I was like, I need to come back. And there's just every quirky thing that you think you might need in your life is in there, so just go there. It's in the Baltic Market in Liverpool.
Sounds amazing. And our last quick one, if you had a microphone that was universally translated and you could speak to the whole world and you could give them all one piece of advice, what piece of advice would you give to them?
It's not that deep. Like, honestly, I was thinking about this earlier, I think there are a few people who might have hated me on the train. Like, you find that a lot. The more you're black in this thinking fascist rising global right wing swing. And I don't know, I know it's difficult when you don't have hate in your heart. I sit and I think, like, how can you sit and hate someone that much that, like,
Yeah.
you know, you wish them harm and it's playing on your mind all the time? Like, you think about a community that you don't belong to because you hate them so much. And I just think, really, it's not that deep. Like, no one's existence other than, you know, the billionaire class who are destroying the planet, no one exists really bothers us that much.
Oh.
It's not that deep. And most of the things that you think you hate people for, you don't really hate them. You've just been conditioned to hate them. So yeah, I just don't think it's that deep, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Chantelle. And before we go, I got to give a quick thank you to GiftGaff, who have sponsored us by giving us this
Thank
lovely
you.
gift and some lip balms. Shout out to GiftGaff.
That's gift card. Thank you for the sponsorship.
Thank you so much, everyone who's tuned in, whether you're listening or whether you're watching. Don't forget to give us a follow, and with Phoenix and Friends, please share, and you can find the Patreon and other ways to support in the description. Whatever you're doing now, I hope you have a fabulous time. I will see you next time with Phoenix and Friends. Take care.